So welcome everybody. It's great to have you back here, URI HDF alumni. Thank you so much again for being here. Let's start with introductions. So panelists, what I'll have you do is introduce yourself, your name, the year you graduated, your title in your organization, and your preferred pronouns. After introductions, Barbara, I'll have you take it right away. Take the floor. So Dee, you're first in my chat. So why don't we start with you?
Yeah. So hello everyone. My name is Daraj, but everyone calls me D. I graduated last year, class of 2021. I am a enrollment associate at Pace, Rhode Island. What was the last one you said? Sorry.
It's okay. So you graduated, your title and organization, your preferred pronouns, D.
Yeah. It's just D. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Jessica, I'll hand it over to you.
I graduated from URI in 2011, and I am currently the Director of Operations for the Groden Network, and I go by she, her.
Wonderful, thank you. Stephen, I'll have you go next.
My name is Stephen Raboyne. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I go by he, him, his. I work currently in a private practice. So pretty much that means I just work by myself, for myself. I graduated undergrad 2016 at URI, but also went to the graduate program for marriage and family therapy and graduated that in 2018.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I'll have you go next.
Hi there, my name is Jacqueline Daigle. I graduated in 2019. I'm currently a third-year law student at New England Law Boston, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And hi, Barbara. I didn't get to say hi. Just excited to see you.
Thanks, Jacqueline. And Anna.
Hi, my name is Anna Fernandez. My pronouns are she, hers. I graduated URI 2020. And right now I am a family support specialist with Healthy Families America at the Providence Center.
All right. Thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. I'm so pleased to be here. I'm so grateful to Ashley and Kristen for giving me this opportunity. So Ashley, you're first on my screen, so I'll start with you, if that's okay. Can you tell us a little bit about life after graduation and how you came to be in your current position as a Healthy Families coordinator?
So Anna, I think that one's for you.
Anna, excuse me.
It's okay.
Yeah, so life after graduation was kind of crazy. I graduated right 2020, so right when COVID was just started. So I feel like I didn't even graduate because I didn't cross the stage, none of that. It was a while before I got the position I'm in now. But when I did, it was kind of nepotism that got me the position. It was my cousin, so she was looking for someone to work for, excuse me. And that's how I got the position. I've been there for a year, and I love it. Is there another? Did I answer your question?
You absolutely answered the question. Thank you. And I love that it was a family connection that brought you there. And we too often shy away from connections, but that's how jobs get had.
Right.
So I'm glad that you're able to share that wisdom with our students. So thank you. I'm going to kick it back to Jacqueline, who I know you are not working yet, Jacqueline. You're in school, but how did you go from HDF to law?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So I knew that I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to be an attorney for a long time, but I even knew since high school, but what I did know for sure was that I wanted to be in a helping related law career. So I took upon the HDF major. I know a lot of law students or potential law students take upon political science, but for me, I felt like this was HDF was best related to the subject matter that interests me, which is helping people and working with my community to make it better. So, it's offered me a lot of work in things like civil rights and just better understanding the needs that people have and how someone in the legal profession can address those needs or work with a lot of beautiful people who come from the HDF profession as well, like health clinicians and people like that, to meet those needs that might not be legal and things of that nature. So does that answer your question?
It absolutely does. You drew a beautiful line from helping profession to helping profession, but with a very different focus, and how you can sort of speak the language of some of the social service collateral context that you have through your work as a lawyer or as a law student. So that was fantastic. Thank you. Steve, if we can go back to you.
Yeah, so after graduation, I went into working with a nonprofit agency as a trauma-based clinician. So working with children who had a trauma diagnosis. As rewarding as that was, it was exhausting, and it takes a lot out of you. And I knew that over time, my goal was to become independent provider and work in a private practice. So during the pandemic, it was kind of a seamless shift, because one of the biggest barriers to having your own private practice is renting out an office space. And so with telehealth, it just took down the main barrier for me. So I went right into it, started telehealth. I now have my own office as well as I build up my clientele. So I've been in private practice working for myself for about a year, and really, really enjoying that.
And who is the focus of your clientele? Do you see mainly children or across the age spectrum?
Right now, I see a wide variety, and that's what really drew me to a private practice. Was I feel like I enjoy working with a variety of clients. Like I love working with children, but I also like working with parents, individuals. It keeps me, I don't know, more interested throughout the day. I think it keeps me a little bit more fresh to people who are having some challenges. So right now I see a wide variety as well. I would say I specialize more in parenting work due to my background, but mostly a wide variety of clients.
Great, great. I love how you were able to sort of look at the silver lining of COVID and use that as a jumpstart for your career. So fantastic, thank you. And Jessica.
Hi. It's really actually interesting to hear everyone else's stories, because I think I've actually worked in all three of those fields before I found what I wanted. So being the longest since I graduated, it's definitely interesting. So right after URI, I worked at Head Start, which works very closely with Healthy Families America. I was a family advocate there, absolutely loved it. I worked at a disability law firm as a family advocate for a while, also loved it. But it wasn't my work atmosphere. And then I finally came to the Groden Center, where I used all of that as a family advocate, and then coming away with just slowly working up, seeing where there is a need, seeing where there's issues where families were unable to access services, or the right services didn't yet exist. And luckily the Groden Center let me kind of play with that and create programs, and then slowly just work to the position I have now.
Fantastic. I love that you sort of were in the trenches and saw those gaps and saw the sometimes the chasms of lack of service, and were able to address that on a more macro level. So fantastic. Thank you, Jessica. And last but most certainly not least, Dee, you have this probably the shortest amount of time since graduation to your current position.
Yeah. So I started as a life enrichment intern with PACE Rhode Island.
And can you explain what PACE is, Dee? I'm sorry.
So it's the program of all-inclusive care for the elderly. That's the acronym. We're a nonprofit organization. Our main focus, we are a health plan, just like how you would think of Blue Cross Blue Shield or anything of that sort. But we focus primarily on older adults over the age of 55 years old with more complex medical needs, such as like diabetes. Biggest focus is like dementia, Alzheimer's, and like we have 4 day centers centered throughout Rhode Island, one in Newport, one in Westerly, one in Riverside, and last one is in that it's part of the St. Clair building alongside Newport as well. So, and also there's one in Woonsocket as well. I worked primarily as a enrollment associate. So what I do is I'm enrolling new participants into the program. So what we first do is I would go out to the home soon as we get a referral from a community physician. So like if they refer someone that has dementia and it's getting advanced, and we have trained professionals, like we have doctors, social workers, physical therapists, occupational therapists, dietitians, rehab specialists. So they get appointed, all of those people, when they sign on as a care team. So my job is I'm that opening door for them meeting PACE and like us. I'm representing us as a company.
Sure. So thank you, Dee. There's sort of two important things that I heard in that. Number one, you're sort of the face of the agency, or the first face that they see. So you really have an important role in making sure that you're explaining what they're doing, what can be done. And also I would imagine you work a lot with families as well, because the direct clients may not be able to fully participate in their own care.
Yes. So especially sound of mind. So like if they have to be fully aware of like what they're enrolling into. We are so we have a day center program, so they can come to the day center from 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, 5 in the afternoon. And so like the families get involved, because like how you said, they might not fully be able to understand at the moment. So we work closely with the family. We'll go out there, visit, we'll see how everything's going on. We pull medical records, we look at their medical records, and we just go from there.
Well, you are a fabulous representative of any agency, so I know you must be very successful. So thank you to everyone for kind of sharing your brief path from URI to your current profession. So my next question, and Stephen, I'm going to start with you, but I'll just give you a little warning. If you can you reflect on how your specific experiences at URI prepared you for the position you're in now? And Stephen, you have the dual experience of both undergraduate and graduate, but your coursework, internships, paid work, what was sort of the value-added experience you got here at URI?
Yeah, I think the first step in my process was I really didn't know what I was going to do, probably, in the same position as a lot of people here when I was a junior in undergrad. And so really I worked at the Child Development Center for, I think it ended up being 5 years, because I worked there throughout my grad experience as well. But I knew that I loved working with kids. I just didn't know in what setting I wanted to work with children after my experience there. And so they set me up. I had internships through the CDC, where I actually worked a lot with the parents. And that's where that kind of sparked, for me, the interest working with parents. Working with children is great. In a therapy setting, it can be very difficult. Kids don't usually want to talk to you, which is totally understandable. But a lot of times it's working with parents. And I found a great passion in that. And so then going into graduate school, I don't have enough positive things to say about the grad program. I felt like once I graduated and went out into the field, I felt so prepared for what I was seeing. And unfortunately, a lot of times next to clinicians who felt like they were underprepared. And so a lot of times I felt like the grad program actually put me ahead of potentially others who may not have had as much support. The grad program at URI is 7 or 8 people. So it's very close knit. And within your first year, you're already working with clients. And so that, to me, a little bit scary, a little bit intimidating, but coming out of the grad program, I felt like just put me way ahead of where I thought I could be. And now, especially with my connections, I just feel that built such a great foundation for where I am now, and working again on my own, having that autonomy, can be intimidating. You don't necessarily have a supervisor you can go to in a tough pinch or when things are really difficult, but I felt like the programs along the way really set me up for that.
That's great. I think you've addressed a really important concern or fear among a lot of our students, among college students in general, is what will I do when I get there? I'm not sure if I'll know what to do. And I love how you felt so prepared, even more prepared than a lot of your colleagues. So thank you. Dee, would you share? I'm sure your instructor in HDF 432 was instrumental in preparing you.
No, definitely. Like just going off like a broader approach, like the degree as a whole, I feel like was amazing because it just provides such like a good foundation like of general knowledge that you need in that workforce. So like from every day, like interacting with your potential participants, interacting with family members, interacting with your colleagues, your CEOs, your CFOs, doctors, physicians. So like just being in a work environment, I feel like every course that you take builds like communication skill, or and you learn about how like human development progresses. And I think that's just like the foundation of like how I'm successful in my position.
Fantastic. And you did do an internship at Pace as well.
Yeah,
So-
so I was a life enrichment intern. That was a much more hands-on approach. So from what I'm doing right now I'm more desk work, paperwork, logging stuff into the database. We have a couple databases that we constantly update every day. So all that information that you're taking down in your reports has to go in the database as well. So I'm doing more of that work. But life enrichment, it was great because that's when we was in charge of all the activities that all our seniors are doing. So you're doing the fun stuff, like you're doing the painting with the seniors. You're like, you go on walks, like you're doing gardening outside. We do axe throws. We do, they're like not the real axes like how you would think, but much more safer approach. But definitely like card games. We'll do bingo. They love their bingo. Pokino, stuff like that. So keep them always interactive and like engaged.
Fantastic. And I love, so you and Steve sort of both had a common thread where I recall last year in class, you saying that you sort of unexpectedly really enjoyed this internship. You hadn't thought that working with older adults was necessarily something that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And Steve sort of found his interest in working with parents. So I love the idea of being open to new experiences and perhaps finding your passion.
Yeah, and it was cool because when I started my internship, we was at the old building at the Chapman location in Providence. So I got to work there and got a feel for that before we got into the Riverside location, which was the grand opening was this year. So we took a old Citizens Bank headquarters. So it's like a huge facility compared to Chapman. So it was just like a total change. Offices everywhere. There's like everything is all centered in one location. So it's just hustle and bustle at all times. So it's like just getting adapted to that was pretty nice.
Awesome. Thank you. Jacqueline, can you talk a little bit about how your work at URI prepared you for law school?
Definitely. I think that first and foremost for me, ultimately, my coursework provided me two opportunities. One was interests and one was experience. I feel like I had a classmate who was taking, I think she was in a business major, and she was like, it's great that you have so many experiential activities that you get to do through that major. And I completely agree because I got to identify populations that I liked working with. I got to identify the issues that these people face on the ground. And I got to think more through those experiences and then through the coursework, well, what kind of policies, what kind of laws would help with these issues? And that took me into law school and fueled my passion. And to be honest, I don't know how a lot of people go to law school and they're not passionate, but in my opinion, it's the most important thing, at least it is for me, that keeps me going, keeps me renewed. So as far as experiential activities, something that really shaped honestly, my entire life was my senior year. I got to work at the Rhode Island Attorney General's office. And going into that experience, I remember they were like, well, would you like to be in the criminal division? Would you like to be in the civil division? I was like, oh, civil division, civil rights. I'm familiar with that. I still have a passion for that. I'm interested. But they put me into the criminal division and child abuse unit. And that was one of the most meaningful experiences I ever could have imagined. I found out, how my time in that in that internship that I took because of our major showed me the type of attorney I wanted to be. I worked for an alumni actually who worked in the child abuse unit as an attorney. I worked with victim advocates and I saw just the sort of impact that I want to have in the world. And it really fostered that passion, bringing me into law school and prepared me so well for lots of other experiences in all kinds of different offices, all kinds of different agencies.
Fantastic. Wow, you make me want to go to law school. That is really inspiring, and that's difficult work to be working on the child abuse unit. And so if you can maintain your passion and feel inspired to create change, thank you for sharing that story. Jessica, if we can move to you on your path, how did URI prepare you for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what I took away from a lot of my HDF classes was this common theme of kind of meeting people where they're at and meeting families where they're at. And I think that's something that I definitely used in every single job I've had so far. And it kind of helped create the position that I want now, because you're not going to be able to make that change, have that impact, unless you are meeting families where they are in that moment, helping them with the need that they have in that moment. And yeah, the courses hit a wide spectrum of like very factual information, everything like that. But there was a common theme in every class that I think we've ever had to take, was meeting people where they are right now. And I know it's kind of a simple thing, but I think that is definitely the biggest takeaway I had from URI, was that it was like a consistent theme, and it kind of became my mantra.
That's awesome. It helps you avoid a lot of unnecessary steps when you can embrace that and know the appropriate place to start. Thank you. And last but not least, Anna, how about your path from how do URI prepare you to begin working with Healthy Families America?
So when I first got to URI, I was a kinesiology major, and I switched my major to HDF last minute my junior year. And at that time, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. Sometimes I still don't. But I would say working at the CDC, the Child Development Center, like Stephen, for my internship, that really solidified my passion for wanting to work with children, especially young children. And for my position right now, I would say the one class that always sticks out to me was the children in poverty class. Because I don't know, like at the time when I was taking the class, it was just another class, new things to learn. And then now in this position, like all the things that I learned about trauma and poverty and how it affects childhood and how important childhood is for development and for the future, that class really like keep in perspective the importance of my job, definitely. Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you. Well, you all identified important experiences that you had sort of both in and out of class that really contributed to not only your success here at URI, but definitely finding your path to your current position. So, and Anna, we're going to stay with you since you're on my screen, if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to, as briefly as you can, describe a day in the life of you in your workplace. And I'm sure the first thing you'd all say is there's no 2 days alike, because that is certainly the nature of working in the human service and clinical field. But so maybe what are some of the common themes that you encounter, but run us through a typical day as possible.
So a typical day for me would be, so my job is, we work half in the office and half like out and how do I say it, in the town, not in the town, but in the office and out of the office. So a typical day for me would be, I would meet with my moms that are on my caseload, maybe 4 or 5 moms a day, depending on the day. And then afterwards, I would take note of my entire visit, put it in the system, and that's like the general. Outside of that, there's referrals that I contact, referrals that I make for my moms to other different agencies. Day to day, I work closely with DCYF, with Children's Friends, other agencies in the community. And yeah, literally my no 2 days are alike. So it always is hectic, but one thing I do like about the everyday is that they're not all like, there's a routine, but there's not monotony. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yep.
And it is very flexible. So I like the fact that I can make my own schedule.
Mhm.
I'm not really micromanaged by management or my supervisors, which I like. But they are there to guide me when I do need it. So
Perfect. And how do you like being in homes with your clients? How is that experience?
I love it, actually. So when I first started, because of COVID, everything was virtual. So, and I'm always a people person. So at first I was kind of like iffy about the job, and I realized because we were all virtual on the computer. So now finally, when they lifted the ban and we could actually go into homes and visit with moms, um, I started loving it more just because you get that personal connection with them. Because HFA, we're a long-term program, so we're with moms from prenatal and then until the baby turns 4 years old.
Mhm.
So at first it was really hard to make those relationships through technology, but going in the homes and experiencing them and being able to just like experience someone's family in a natural state and help them, like teach them about parenting and development and how to love their children and how to learn their children. It's great. It's very fulfilling.
You get a much greater insight when you're sort of living in their world than
Right.
over a screen or if they're coming into your office.
Yeah. Like Jessica said, it's a lot easier to meet them where they're at when it's in person versus when it's virtual and more like formal, I should say.
Absolutely. They're very empowering too, I think, for the client as well, when you're sort of on their turf versus everything.
Definitely.
Awesome. Thank you. Dee, how about you? You've talked, you've already given us a bit of a rundown, but it sounds like you have sort of a structure like Anna, where you're visiting, you're doing a lot of computer work, making phone calls.
Yeah, so like, yeah, when Anna was speaking, I was like making a lot of connections, like similar to my workday. So I have a typical 7:30 to 4 o'clock. It, early hours, but you get in the office before you know it, your day is done. I love it. So 7:30, my day starts. I check my emails. Then you have typically 2 referrals per day. So like I'll check my emails. If I have some emails that I need to send out, I'll start sending the emails out. Then like just like how Anna said, it's my like it I'm not really micromanaged by like a manager. My manager's there, my boss, she's the chief of growth. So I report to the chief of growth. She's amazing. Like she doesn't really, she's not gonna bother you, but also at the same time, they expect you to do what you have to do. So as long as you're doing what you have to do and you impress her with your work, you don't really get micromanaged. So like how Anna said, it's on you. I create my own schedule. So typically I have 2 referrals per day. So I'll go out to the home. I'll call like 10 minutes in ahead, just see if anything happened or they have any last minute cancellations. So I'll go out to the home. I introduce myself, give them a couple brochures. We watch a couple videos on Pace, a typical day in the life of Pace. Like we have an actual like video, like a day in the life. So like it walks you through to like everything, like our new facility, to like our buses, like how our buses go out to pick up our participants in the morning. And like also food, like we're using food as medicine. So food is a big part of our mission right now, is like food has healing powers. So we have a brand new facility where we have a personal chef for our participants. So yeah, so it's amazing food. The personal chef, she is a food service manager. She graduated from Johnson and Wales. So she's using locally sourced food. They get a breakfast, they get a lunch as well. So I'm not typically in the day center too much, but I'll do my walk around, like we just walk around the facility when we have like some free time, or just so we can always, interact with the participants. So that's a big part of the mission too, like we're always interactive. But I'll typically go out to my referrals, come back, I'll do my reports. for both of the referrals, then that typically takes me a while. You have to scan through all of their demographics, then just come up like that's where like the essay writing in HDF comes in handy. So like just essay format, put my 1-page report down, and after I'm done with the 2 referrals, typically I'll go back, finish any other paperwork I had. And what happens is I would pass that on to my nurse, and she is a registered nurse. That's my colleague. So she goes out and she does her medical examination. So I collect the basic demographics. She's getting in more depth on their medical condition. So once that report comes back, both of those, I'll have both copies. I put a long-term services application packet together for them. It's roughly about 50 pages of paperwork, but at first it was like very intimidating, but as I went through, I started realizing it becomes just like repetitive. It's just familiar. So you start flying through those. And then typically around 3:30, I'll go and submit my applications to the Department of Human Services. So around 3:30, and if I have any home visits or anything left, I can go do that. But if not, most likely 3:30 to 4 o'clock, I'm usually out of there by 4.
Not a lot of downtime. You have to turn around a lot in a day, and knowing that people are counting on you to move their applications.
But it's like I typically try, like we try to get to a certain number. Like our boss's goal was like 500. So like she's the chief of growth, so she always wants to grow. So like so just me and my colleagues, we came up with like 10 referrals per week. Like that's what we should aim towards. So like that's why the typical 2 referrals per day.
That's great that they took
Yeah.
your input on that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Excellent. Stephen, your typical day might be a little different because I know you're seeing clients in a row, but I'm sure there's a lot more magic to being a clinician.
Yes. Yeah. So like I said, I think private practice, knowing a lot of people who are in my grad program is kind of the end goal, right? And I think it in many ways can be kind of fantasized as like this amazing, easygoing life, which at times it can be. But so a typical day for me, again, changes day to day depending on how I schedule. But typically I like to schedule telehealth sessions in the morning. Usually clients are available before they go to work. So I'll wake up, have maybe at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. on the computer. And then I usually have downtime till usually around 1 p.m. So I have a good chunk of time where I'm working on notes or calling insurance companies, things like that. And then depending on the day, depending on the week, typically I work from probably 1 p.m. till around 7 p.m. But again, some days I'm done by 4, some days, it changes every day. And so that is what I love about it. I mean, I don't have a boss, so I just kind of go in when I need to work. And then when I'm not, like I can be doing things around the house or going out. That being said, it's a tough balance because like all your financial, income depends on seeing clients. So it can be a tough balance. And I think a lot of times, like I said, it's kind of like, oh, great. Like I don't have to wake up till 10. But at the same time, it's how do you balance staying on top of yourself of like, okay, I need to be making, this much money or seeing these many clients a week. Whereas in an agency, they take care of all of that for you. So, and one of the biggest challenges I found was working with insurance companies. Like that can be very, very difficult. So sometimes I'm on the phone for like 2 hours just trying to figure out like what's going on with the client's payment and tracking all these things down. So I think there's a lot of challenges to that. I enjoy my downtime, but I think there's a lot of challenges that people may not foresee when wanting to transition into this position.
I was going to ask if the insurance companies was the one part of your job you'd like to not have to do.
Yeah. And again, it's when you are in private practice, you really are running your own business. And so it's really about managing what you feel like you can manage. Some people, they hire out for insurance companies, someone to deal with that. But it really doesn't make financial sense. So it can be a big challenge. It's a huge learning curve. I mean, the first 2 months I was in private practice, like it was just very challenging. But once you start to get in a rhythm, it starts to become a little bit more comfortable. But like I said, there's a lot of, when you run your own business, there's a lot of financial stress on that, with doing your own taxes, insurance, like all these things. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I do really enjoy, again, the flexibility. If you need to take a day off, you need to go to a doctor's appointment, you can always do that as well.
Right, right. Oh, excellent. Thank you. But you do need to be very self-motivated.
Yeah, yes, yes, definitely.
Too many mornings off and you can't pay the
Yeah,
bills. Right?
yeah, exactly.
Jessica, how about you? What's a typical day in the life like for you?
Like everyone said, it absolutely changes every single day. Right now, I generally have a big project I'm working on and then a bunch of little side things that work their way in. So right now we are looking for an electronic health record to switch to. So it's interviewing companies, it's testing out demos of software, it's working in the various programs to figure out what will work across the board. So the Groden Center, we work with kids and adults with autism, and it's community-based programs all the way to intensive group home services. So we cover everything. One of the parts I love about it is and you're helping a client through their day, halfway through your day. And I could be on the phone with an insurance company and something could be happening in the hallway and you're like, I have to go help them with this in the hallway right now. Which is a phenomenal thing. I think everyone should always continue to work on the ground level of whatever job they do with the direct service workers, because that's who you're helping. That's who you're making the job better for. So it's lovely that like clinicians will still call and they'll have a family in crisis. And maybe that day I'm going on a home visit with them because nobody else can do it. And I'm in the office and that's what we're doing today. So it's definitely different, but it goes from negotiating contracts with insurance companies, with school departments, to, again, discussing with clients, coming up with billing procedures, reviewing treatment plans, fighting for payment, talking to families to figure out what programs we can kind of finagle their insurance to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's whatever comes up that day.
Whatever tricks you can pull out of your hat on a particular day. Well, so
absolutely.
I love how you mentioned sort of keeping true to your roots of the original helping skills that you acquired here, as well as really embracing those sort of newer collateral skills like insurance companies and like EHRs. You probably learned more about the foundations of electronic health record code writing than you ever wanted to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I know way more than anyone should ever have to know. But again, it comes back to working in all the programs. You know what's going to work because you've worked in all the programs.
Right. Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. And Jacqueline, last but not least.
Oh man, everyone has such good answers. Mine's not going to be that fun, so I'll try to keep it brief, but it's worth it, I promise.
Yeah, absolutely.
During your second and your third year of law school, it definitely gets a little more interesting. If you are interested in law school, you can definitely reach out to me and we can talk about your first year, which is a little bit different. But as far as where I'm at right now, it's a little bit more flexible. I take about 4 or 5 courses, and you know, I take them at a little bit peculiar times at this point, because right now in my last year, I'm just trying to take certain classes that I needed to take. So I do have, you know, some classes from 8 to like 9:30 p.m. I do have some classes from 9 in the morning to 11:20. So there's some variability from day to day, but what you get to do in your second and your third year of law school is, alongside your courses, you get to take clinics. And during those clinics, you devote a certain number of hours towards working with, you know, maybe a law firm, maybe an agency, maybe a nonprofit. So I don't have a current clinic right now. Right now I'm taking advanced legal analysis, disability law. What else am I even taking? I'm taking
the end of the semester.
Yeah, right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I only have a week or 2 left. So I'm taking classes like that just to give you an idea of what I'm doing. I'm doing more things that I'm interested in right now that are more elective. And last semester, for example, one of my courses was a clinic where I worked with the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. And so to give you an idea, just as a judicial intern, because I'll be clerking next year, so it's a similar experience. I'll be clerking Rhode Island. But you go up to a law clerk, you say, you know, I'd like to have a little bit information on what you need help with. You do legal research for them and you help them maybe draft an opinion or draft bench memoranda explaining precedent, evaluating a legal argument, or maybe just providing a recommendation that you provide as far as, you know, a case pending oral argument before the court and things of that nature. So that's kind of something that I did that was a clinic, and it was about 20 hours a week plus my 3 or 4 courses that I took alongside it.
Okay. So again, very, very varied though too, depending on what semester you're in. And I imagine once you're working too, it will be, you'll have that variable schedule where you'll be doing any number of activities. And, you know, I heard, you know, newly appointed Justice Jackson, you know, maybe looking for a legal intern at some point. So keep that in mind.
Love that.
We are coming down to our last question or so, and I have about 20 other questions I'd love to have time to ask you, but I'm going to try to condense it into, and Jacqueline, we'll start with you since you're here on my screen, if that's okay. Sort of a two-part question, something you wish you knew or did before graduating from URI, and any last minute words of wisdom you have for our students, and then we'll open it up to questions.
That's such an excellent question. For sure. So, you know, it's something I tried to do that I almost wish I did more of, because I feel like you can't do more of it, which is just reaching out to people who are doing something you might have an interest and taking risks. Trying things that you say, you know, I don't know how I'm going to do at this. I'm a little nervous, but doing it anyway and seeing what it teaches you. And maybe you love it. Maybe you hate it. Maybe it inspires you. Same with reaching out to people. As an individual, I find myself, I'm shy. I have a lot of trouble reaching out to people. We're in a very extrovert related major, which I think is fantastic. And I think that helped me build myself along the way. But I really do wish I reached out to more people who were in positions that I thought were interesting and just took the time to take 3 minutes with them, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and say, what do you do? What do you love about what you do? And maybe I'd be inspired and want to do something similar, or maybe I'd be deterred in some way, and that's not a bad thing either. So that would be my advice, and something I wish I did just a little more of.
That's awesome. So powerful. Thank you. Yeah. And it's good to find out what you don't want to do too. I think we're afraid of finding out we don't like something, but that's really important. So perfect. Thank you, Jacqueline. And Anna, how about you? Something you wish you knew or did, and any last minute words of wisdom?
Something I wish, I would have to agree with Jacqueline. Something I wish I did more was reaching out for more support or networking, or taking those like little opportunities to network and figure out anything, literally figure out what I wanted to do, or just ask more questions when I needed it. I think that was something I wish that I did. And I think words of wisdom that I would have is, if you think you can't do something, do it anyways, because you're either gonna know you can't do it or figure out that you can do it. So don't be afraid to try something.
I love that. Thank you. Dee, how about you?
Definitely, I totally agree with both of them. But one thing I would say, you guys have time. Like, don't rush into anything, but also do your research. Like, do your due diligence. You know, like, do like as much as you guys can. Like, look into these jobs. Look, not just the salary. Like, look into the day to day. Like how they also said, like, reach out to people. Like, see if you can shadow them, or like see, like, you know, like what's going on in their typical day. See if that like attracts you, because this is a career. And like one thing I learned, you kind of get like sucked into it. So so definitely like do your research. And another thing I would say, just like good general advice, also focus on your work-life balance. Like, that's the biggest thing I would say. Like, outside of work, I would say, like, just to have a clear mind. Exercise would be probably like the greatest thing you can do. I just noticed that the first couple months I went into my job, I wasn't really exercising, and like sometimes I would feel sluggish at work. Like once you incorporate a little bit of exercise outside of the office, I feel like it does definitely help you, just like thinking, like your decision making, just your cognitive skills overall.
That's great advice. I love that. We could all use that advice. Thank you, Dee. Jessica, how about you? Your words of wisdom or something you wish you knew or had done before graduating?
My words of wisdom would be definitely don't graduate and put yourself in a box thinking, I mean, knowing what you want to do is lovely and it's phenomenal and it helps in a lot of places, but definitely try different jobs. I was very sure I wanted to be a clinician and I love all of the clinicians I work with, but I realized I had a different path. I wanted to do something else. And I did not figure it out until I probably got my 4th job after graduating, and I worked them all for a couple of years and I loved them, but just keep trying things until you find the right fit. I'm going to go back to grad school now instead. So it took a little while, but I'm going to go get my MBA instead of being a licensed clinician, which is what I thought I wanted to do originally. So just try everything that you can, whether it's through internships, whether it's through practicums, or once you graduate, you work a job for a couple of years. And something I wish I had done is kind of the opposite. I wish I hadn't worked as much when I was in college and you actually got to enjoy all the networking and the clubs and all that stuff. So just take a minute and kind of enjoy college while you can.
That's so great. So important too, just that sort of work-life balance. And congratulations on not getting a master's in something that you realized didn't serve you and spending all that money. Wonderful. And Stephen, we'll finish up with the clinician's words of wisdom.
Yeah, I would say what I hear a lot from HDF students is like, okay, what do I do with my major, right? And it's very like, what do I want my career to be? What's like my dream job? And I would challenge that and say, focus more on like, what do you want to do? Who do you want to work with? Who do you want to help? And how is my HDF major going to help me get there? Because I mean, as you can just tell from our panel, like we're all different positions that we probably didn't know we were going to end up in, but we love what we do, right? And so HDF is so unique that you can do so many things with it, which I think brings college students a lot of anxiety because it's like, okay, but what do I do with it? And I think it's more about finding what you love to do and who you really want to help. And then how does my HDF major get me there? I think that's really what happened for me is I just knew I wanted to help people. I didn't know what setting. And it just kind of took me where I needed to be. And I love that now. What I would say is kind of advice that's already been given out is enjoying the process as much as the destination. I know you want to get through school and you want to get through grad school and you want to get through, but there's just so many experiences you're going to enjoy along the way that I don't think you'll be able to fully appreciate till you're past it. Like I worked in home-based services, so I went in the home, and as Anna talked about, like that's such a unique experience that a lot of students get nervous about or may not want to go into, but you're just like, you're really in the trenches working with people who deserve it. And so just not trying to take or jump steps, right? Just being happy where you are, enjoying the process, I think is something that's really important with HDF majors. Oh,
great words of wisdom. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for all your wonderful insights and comments. Ashley, I'm not sure if you want to oversee the Q&A portion.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, everybody. This is such great advice. And Stephen, I really appreciate that plug from a job, right? Like that's, what I encourage my students to come and see me about. I'm here to help you explore that. But one of those ways to do that is through events like this, networking and really having those conversations with people who are really doing the job and that are out there getting it done. So we did have one question in the chat, so I'm gonna call out Ariana, one of my students. After graduation, was it difficult to find a career right away? And I think, Jessica, maybe I'll kind of kick that ball over to you. I think that might be a great question to answer.
To find a career right away, yes, because I was very picky about what I wanted to use as a career. You can definitely find a job, and I suggest finding a job. 100% find a job, and like Stephen said, try it, figure out where you want to work. If you look at mine, all of mine were nonprofits because, like, again, a lot of people in this major, you knew you wanted to help people, but I tried different things, and it took some time. But if you really assess what you're liking about it and try the next thing, like I worked at Head Start, loved working with kids. So my next job, I was like, okay, I like working with kids with some disabilities. Maybe I want to do disability law. And I was like, nope, a lot of information, loved it, but not exactly what I wanted to do. So then I went back to working with kids and adults with autism. And you got to try things. So I wouldn't put that pressure on yourself to find a career right away.
Thank you. And Anna, I'd love for you to answer that question too, because you graduated in 2020 and all over the news, it was like, there are no jobs for anybody. And that really wasn't ever the case in HDF. There was always the need for help. Yeah, even I see Jess, you're shaking your head, and it's, yeah, even though it was virtual in the beginning, there was still always a need for HDF industry jobs. So, Anna, I'd love to get your perspective on, was it hard to find a job right away?
Actually it was. So like I said before, I graduated right during COVID, and there was just like, you know, URI had the little list of everybody's names and who graduated, whatever. But it actually took me a while to find. I think I was unemployed for about 8 months before getting that job with HFA, and part of it was, you know, me not being motivated, or me like, I got time, I have time. But surprisingly, it was kind of difficult because a lot of the places that I did apply to were like a lifespan. But one thing I would say is not to get discouraged if you don't find something quick or you don't find something right away. I would say just keep trying. And that's one thing that I didn't do too. Like I would get discouraged and I wouldn't try for like 2-3 weeks. But definitely keep trying, and also be open about it too. Because there's so many things that you can do with HFA. So if you feel like it's something that like you don't know, just definitely be open. The more open you are, I think the easier it will be for you to find a job.
Thanks, Anna, I appreciate that. Well, with that, I am going to stop recording our session. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I truly, truly appreciate it. Thanks to our HDF alum who are doing big things out in the world. We're so grateful for you for coming back and sharing your expertise.